Welcome to the Dagnabbit Boys pod. Yeah, okay.
All right.
All right. Hey guys, welcome to the Dagnabbit Boys podcast. We're gonna do a little bit of introduction. I know it's been like 23 episodes. We haven't said anything about ourselves. This is my co-host Cooper Lyden.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here. I think introduced you think we've never introduced ourselves?
I don't know if people really know what our deal is.
Okay.
Okay.
I think they get it though.
Okay, but I don't know though.
How about this? For the introduction, if this is your first time watching the show and you don't know anything about us, take 5 seconds to just guess what we do outside of this podcast, where we're coming from, what kind of guys you're listening to.
We're asking too much of them right now. Let's just kind of explain with our own words what we do.
Okay, they've had their time. Now you
They've had their time. They've had their time.
You explain.
All right, so now you're pretty confused, I imagine, because what Cooper gave you doesn't really make that much sense. But I do want to say we're both two stand-up comedians from Los Angeles. Well, originally Cooper's from Los Angeles. I'm from Middle Tennessee. I'm from Tennessee. I'm 26. He's 25. We both have very similar interests. We read. We accrue knowledge. We're very intelligent guys. If you could tell from the last episode where we just kind of talked about stuff.
Yeah. I don't know if we can put that in the intro. I think we just have to show that. You know what I mean?
Well, they can go check it out.
I think we have to prove it.
No.
Yeah, watch the last one to prove that we're smart, and then come back.
And then come back and then check out the intro again. Pause it right now. Watch the last episode. Come back. Watch this one.
Yeah.
What's our favorite food? Cooper, how about you go first?
Favorite food? I've thought about this a lot, and I honestly, considering how many burgers I'm scaring you?
You're scaring the audience. You're thinking too hard. A lot of people, you ask them their favorite food, they answer immediately. You're like, I was thinking about this a lot.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
I guess it is weird to say.
I had to ponder this.
Well, can I explain why I said that then? Since we have the time, right? This is like a long form thing.
Yeah, I guess we could do that today.
Did you have stuff you wanted to get to?
Well, I mean,
sometimes I think we're gonna come in, we're just gonna riff, and I'm sure we both have some stuff that we've been thinking about. But then you kind of come in sort of like it's like a briefing of like, listen.
That's kind of what we're doing today. This is the intro podcast.
Yeah. So this is the episode that gets people into it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess my favorite food would be burgers, which is kind of embarrassing, but considering how many burgers I eat and the different types of burgers I like, it would probably be that. But favorite's interesting because sometimes you hear favorite and you want to be like, well, what's the greatest taste of all time? Like I've had a fucking caviar uni pasta at this Italian place. It was like a wonderful. All the notes, the flavor's very subtle. That tasted amazing. But favorite's interesting because then favorite almost implies you have to eat it all the time. And if I have to eat it all the time, I'd probably say burgers because I do that anyway.
Well, you crave burgers.
And I guess the real answer is I don't want to pick a favorite. I just love the flavors of the world.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so Cooper has no personality to this episode.
I felt like that was a lot of personality. Wouldn't it have been less?
Cooper's like, I love everything. I love everyone.
No, I didn't
Motherfucking Jesus over here.
I didn't say I love everything. I'm saying I just don't know if I could pick a favorite from everything I've tried. But recently,
is this a race thing? Are you trying so hard to not be racist? You're like, I love the whole flavors of the world.
No, this doesn't have anything to do with race. We were talking about food, and that's a setup. That's one of the most clear setups I've seen of all time. I mean, lazy setup, Shane. That's what they call them.
Anyway,
what I've been eating a lot recently is I'll take an Italian sausage and then I'll make hash browns with onions in them and broccolini. Sometimes without the broccolini, just hash browns with onions.
Can you explain to the audience what broccolini is?
It's baby broccoli.
Okay, interesting. He eats baby broccoli.
A lot of people like broccolini. They serve it in nice restaurants. I enjoy it more than broccoli.
I just think it's very interesting.
It's very good. Have you had it?
I have had it.
Yeah, do you like it?
It's interesting how much you like it.
Well, okay. I mean, I don't think it's interesting. I think...
Okay. Next question. Cooper, what color eyes do you have?
I have brown eyes.
Cooper has brown eyes. Interesting. Broccolini, brown eyes. What a neat little thing you got there.
Yeah, you just have the energy of building a case. And I'm wondering, I'm
just trying to explain to them what you are.
Because like 2 minutes into the podcast, I was like, well, maybe this intro thing is like a bit that's leading to something that's sort of against me. And I thought that, but as time has went on, I feel like that would have happened by now, and you just sort of started down this road. This could be the whole episode. So, what's your favorite food? Fucker?
Fucker. Can you see it? Okay, that's another interesting thing about the podcast. Our dynamic is one of mild hatred, I guess, on Cooper's side. I love Cooper. Cooper's one of my favorite people I know.
Yeah.
But he calls me fucker and shit.
So that's the dynamic, is you're just trying to reach me.
Yeah, I'm trying to reach a very troubled man.
You're just trying to get through to a guy that you really think is
man
funny.
who loves broccolini and has brown eyes.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's completely true.
Okay.
I'm okay with those things being said about me.
I like regular broccoli.
All right. It's your favorite food?
It's my favorite healthy food.
Is it really?
If I'm going to pick a vegetable, though, I think I enjoy it the most.
Sweet potato?
No, I really like broccoli. I like steamed broccoli.
You like it more than broccolini?
100%.
I think broccolini has more flavor, more texture.
Well, I kind of like how, it feels like when you're eating broccoli, you could eat a lot of it. It's never like overpowering.
I guess because
you're never I gotta savor this shit.
When you steam it, it mushes quickly. It's like full of water, so you can kind of gulp it down. But
yeah,
that makes me feel like there's like less nutrients in it.
You think so?
You throw broccoli in the oven for 10 minutes, it gets like a little dark, but you kind of feel like you're almost eating raw vegetables, which is what I feel like I should just be doing.
Okay, so Cooper's also very informative. So if you're trying to live a healthy life or something, you should listen to his takes on steamed broccoli and stuff.
Do you know why I think that actually?
Why?
Is because when I played football,
Pee-wee football?
when I was 11, tackle. Calabasas Raiders.
Ooh.
There was just one kid that was really fast. He was like the coach's son. And I remember the coach yelling, he eats his broccoli raw too. And he emphasized he eats raw vegetables. And I remember as a kid that was not athletic at all on the team being like, should I be eating raw? Is that what Imani's doing?
Yeah.
But there were other differences between me and Imani.
Okay.
In our physical
You think he was
prowess.
so fast because it was Calabasas and he was running away from Drake?
Yeah. Drake, what's that? What do you want? Oh, okay.
Bumping mics, that's another thing we do on the
Looked
podcast.
like you want You're like, what's your response? This is very aggressive, fucker. I think I should change my solo podcast to an interview podcast where I only have the mic.
Oh.
And so I ask him pretty kind of aggressive questions, then I go. And then I don't really wait till they're done. It's just when I'm like, okay. Anyway, so all right.
I heard your family started the Monsanto Corporation.
They did.
All right.
That would be cool. They didn't.
Cooper
though.
Monsanto.
We don't deal with any of that. My family saves lives.
Oh, really?
I think my family, probably more than most families, saves lives because of my uncle. I've made that clear.
My family does not save any lives. It's another important thing to distinct between me and Cooper.
You should know how many lives your family saves, because none of us are doing anything besides my uncle, but he's doing heavy lifting because he invented a drug that stops one of the two types of strokes. So my family,
how tall is your uncle?
He might be 6 foot, but I wouldn't imagine he's taller than that. He might be maybe 5'11". We're more of a, I'm 5'9". My dad's 5'10".
Your dad's significantly taller than you.
What?
I met your dad. He's significantly taller than you. Maybe by 4 or 5 inches.
No, he's not over 6 foot.
Oh, I wasn't saying he's over 6 foot.
I've never heard. Okay, this is just a lie. My dad is not significantly taller than me. I think my dad's 5'10".
Your dad could beat
5'9".
your ass.
No, that's not true.
100%.
You don't know his history.
He looks springy.
He has a bad hip.
He does?
Yes.
Well, maybe it was from the last time he was fighting you and you fucking played dirty.
We never fought.
All right. Neither of us have fought our dads. That's another intro to the podcast.
You haven't fought your dad?
Not physically.
My brother fought my dad. I remember on Father's Day one time, it was very funny. My brother broke my scope on my pellet gun. It was like a glare. It was like a lens on the scope, and he broke it.
Yeah.
I thought so, at least. I think I was wrong. But I was like, what the fuck? And I told my parents, I was like, what the fuck? Did he break this? And then my brother was already in trouble for drugs and a bunch of other shit, so he just got blamed all the time.
Yeah.
So they're like, what the fuck? And then it turned into this big fight. And I remember my brother trying to give my dad the pellet gun and screaming like, shoot me. And I remember I was watching it, and it was like, traumatic because they were yelling, but still in the moment I was like, it can't kill you. This means nothing. This is a meaningless yell. And then I think it was the same day they were like fighting in the living room, and I just remember my dad like holding my brother's arms down and going, stop it.
Yeah.
Which is very funny because a lot of like family trauma or whatever is like, it's still your dad doing dad's like, stop it. You know what I mean? Like he uses the same words as he would when you're like in the back of the car being too loud.
You know how I can tell if somebody's like kind of like exaggerating something that's traumatic if it's not kind of funny? Because like every horrible thing I've ever experienced has been kind of funny. Yeah,
that honestly seems like the really like one of the first things that I would notice every time there was anything bad in my family.
Yeah.
Like the whole, because it was just like all of them fighting. I had nothing to do with it. So you'd hear yelling, or you'd see your dad cry or whatever.
Yeah.
And like the whole thing is you're like, that's devastating. You know what I mean? Like my dad being like, I don't know if we're going to get a divorce. And like, you know what I mean? But like the whole thing is just like, this is very funny the whole time. And I remember I would always ask to go to McDonald's after there were family fights because I just knew that like they didn't know what to do to make me feel better. And so that would just be a guarantee. And I look back on the whole situation as very funny. And when I try and talk about how funny it is to like my brother or my father, I don't really with my mom, but they don't seem to get it.
I feel like my sisters and my brother get that it's funny. Like,
yeah,
my sister told me my brother will only mention some things if he's making a joke about it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing is maybe why my family doesn't get on board is if I'm trying to be funny about it, they're like, oh, this is like a coping mechanism.
Yes.
And it's like, no, yes, but also, even if it is a coping mechanism, the coping mechanism came up with an idea that's kind of funny as a way of thinking about this. But they're like, oh, it was so bad. And it's like, it was just pathetic. It wasn't evil. You were just doing heroin watching Bad Santa. It just was boring. That's always my reference is Bad Santa. That just describes it a lot for me.
Yeah.
Of just like, no, you were just on the couch, and you would sweat a lot. Bad Santa, you try to build a bookshelf out of just unfinished plywood. Try to make dabs. The whole thing is funny.
It is very funny.
You tried to fight me because you had to open the door for me. You know why it's funny is that like I think when people are living that way, especially on drugs, it's like nothing matters. So every small thing like you can bring like crisis level emotion to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like because you just have nothing going for you. So
it's like kind of the most like it's like philosophically, they're living the best lives. Like if you're just approaching it, it's like they bring heaviness to everything.
I mean, there are stakes to every single moment.
Yeah.
In that life. Like just one day, I guess my brother just, I assume was sober and pretty unhappy about it and had to open the door for me. And like, I was just giving him shit like, why the fuck are you so mad? And then like he tried to close the door on me. I was like, the fuck are you doing? And then he like pushed me up against the wall. And so I just started punching him, and he was like, why would you hit me? And it's just like, it's just when you have nothing going on, it's like everything is like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
This matters a lot. And then anything they're excited about is like big business.
Yeah.
Like, this, I mean, he started making dabs. They fucking look like just tar.
Nobody ever makes a dab not excited. I don't think I've ever seen somebody make a dab and they weren't just like giddy like it was Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, he thought he was going to be selling that to shops and shit. I tried to have a joke.
They have so many schemes, junkies.
Yeah, I tried to have a joke about it. Nobody thought it was I don't know why people don't think this is funny, but I was just like, you can't make drugs while you're on a way harder drug.
Yeah.
And I would say it to audiences, and they would just be like, oh. And I'd be like,
interesting.
All right. Like
maybe if you had an intro, maybe if you did an intro.
I mean, that was just one line in kind of describing the situation, but... You think I should do an intro?
Kind of like we did here. You should come out and be like, my favorite food is broccolini. I have brown eyes.
I mean, I will say I did like the intro. I feel like it kind of let time fly in the beginning, kind of got us into it.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to talk about the whole thing about the coping mechanism, though. I want to go back to that.
Sure.
Because that is an interesting thing that I think a lot of people think about humor, is that you're using it to cope, but I don't think that's necessarily 100% it.
Do you think maybe it's that, like... You're using it to cope, but there is something that is objectively funny, and your way of coping is honing in on that aspect that is objectively funny.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're making up, you're like deluding yourself, like
Yes.
misremembering and creating a fake story to make yourself laugh at and feel better. It's like, no, you're looking at the story and you're really just focusing on the funny part, because the sad part of it is at least not something you would necessarily say to other people.
Yeah.
In like a social setting, because you'd want it to be funny.
One thing,
But the problem is, even when you bring up the funny part, sometimes people think you're bringing up the serious.
Yeah.
And then they offer sympathy, and you're like, no, I really only want you to focus on that part. And that's why it's a game, because it's understandable why people could just go, oh.
Well, I guess
it is.
It's kind of a storytelling thing, because in storytelling, you just kind of focus on the microcosm, Yeah. And that's the one element that tells everything, at least through your perspective.
Yeah, I think there's also a thing where it's like, at the moment that we witness those things, it wasn't like immediately funny. Or like, it's like, you understand why it's funny, but you're not really laughing at it yet. Like it takes a second before at least the thing has to end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Before you can look back and be like, that was funny. You know what I mean? Because the phrase is, that was funny. The phrase isn't really, this is funny. So it's like, I think sometimes,
I kind of have a counter to this.
But it's like, sometimes when you tell people that, I feel like they are like, they're having to experience that right then. And for some people, they're not ready to laugh yet. And that's why it's tough, because it's like, you have to tell the joke as the experience happens, almost, to be like, okay, here's you experiencing it. Okay, now you're going to laugh at it.
Yeah,
but you have to like kind of feel this first.
I kind of, I agree with you that you're kind of forcing the experience on the audience who aren't prepared for it, but you've already kind of come to grips with it.
Yeah. Because, it's like, in that moment when my brother was yelling at my dad, shoot me.
Yeah.
Saying he was suicidal using a gun that's like not really lethal. I mean, maybe if you put it up to his neck and shot it 8 times, he'd die. But
I knew a guy who died. Well, I didn't know him, but so there's this kid I went to school with.
But I just want to say really quickly, in the moment when I saw that,
sorry,
I understood that it was funny, but it kind of felt like laughing at a funeral where you're like, I can't really laugh right now. And then later you do it, but then people will be like, oh, it's coping, and you're like, no, it was funny.
Yeah.
The sad part, I should focus on in some sense, but in terms of like laughing about it, I'm only going to tell you the funny part.
One thing I did though during a traumatic situation, which was just me kind of goofing around.
You kissed a picture of a guy.
That's not funny to me. I take that serious. But
I take that serious.
The police had showed up to my house because something really bad had happened, and I remember fucking with them because I went upstairs and I started ruffling the blinds because they would move the flashlight up, and I did that multiple times just to fuck with them. This is during something very bad.
Yeah, just so like they're coming and they're like, we heard
some horrific thing
we
happened.
heard a husband poured lava on his wife, and then you're just giving him more questions,
And then a fucking 14 or 15-year-old is going up to mess with them.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of like sees the police as like, well, you're going to come here and you're going to throw us in a foster home where we're going to get fucked in the mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, we heard that a father had turned one of his daughters into a zombie, and he was pouring lava on the mother.
We heard there's evil animorphs in the house. They're turning into animorphs, but bad ones.
We heard a father was doing Dr. Mangala level stuff inside of this house. He was putting tits from his daughter onto his son. Is that what's happening here?
We heard the family
going on?
left, and a cat in a hat came by, and he released 2 strangers into the house who made a big mess.
I heard the cat in the hat who fucks the kids came by. He's like the cat in the hat, but evil.
Yeah.
Have you heard about Johnny Dogshit's new initiative?
To make kids' books evil?
Well, he's doing that, but he's also, if a family is comprised of a son and a daughter, the son and the daughter have to switch tits and genitals.
Oh, that's like the most Democrat thing I've ever heard.
Apparently.
Yes.
Once again, still a registered Democrat. Still, like, I'll probably, I think...
you'll vote for him again. I mean, I'll vote for him again.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done a lot. Not for me or for anyone here, but he's just done a lot.
The only problem is Kamala's thinking of making him her VP.
Really?
Because he's...
Her voluptuous person?
Her voluptuous person. Because he's been so...
He's got a juicy ass.
Damn.
We should get Johnny Dogshit on the podcast next week.
We do need the Mac president who
Yeah.
doesn't have a vice president. He has a voluptuous person.
Yeah.
Where he's like, my name is Arthur the Greatest for third, and this is my voluptuous person, Candy.
Yeah.
And she's just beautiful. I mean, honestly, I don't know what Kamala's been doing as vice president. She's just been laughing and walking around. If she had a BBL, maybe there's another segment of the population that would have been more into it.
I'm voting for Swiggy the Robot. That's who I'm voting for president.
Who's that?
He's kind of exactly what you described. He's a pimp.
Okay, cool.
So, if you guys, he's doing very bad.
There was some
He's got 0.1% votes.
There was some controversy in your house about false claiming recently, right?
Oh, my roommate, John Pellick. You might know him.
Did you want to speak on that?
He's been claiming to be a member of the Raymond Street Crips.
Yeah.
He claims to be an OG.
Right.
But, if you went to Raymond Street and you showed him a picture of John, they'd be like, that guy's grandma, his mother, they're not from here.
Yeah.
His family's not from here.
He doesn't have any people.
No,
from
he
here.
has no people there.
Yeah.
He's got no shooters.
No.
A lot of people would say, and I heard him set tripping in the house.
So he's false claiming, but still tripping on the set.
Yes,
that he can't even claim.
Yeah, he was talking.
Right.
He was talking. He was saying he wanted to join the Bloods. He said, "I'm Raymond Street Crip, but whatever blood set'll have me." I heard him doing it at my house.
I mean, he can't be doing that shit in your house. You realize that, right?
I tried to tell him.
Because you know that, if any of my people were involved in that situation, if John was talking that way about any of my people,
yes,
living where you live would be a bad idea.
I live in a war zone right now.
I mean, you would be having bullets flying through you. That would be so funny if John somehow convinced multiple gangs that he was false claiming and really angered them. So there's serious war that they somehow in their head they think is for real an issue.
False claiming is so funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, false claiming as a stunt is really funny. I don't know if there's always white guys that make racist videos where they go into the hood.
Yeah.
And they're just annoying. But is anybody making false claim videos where it would be crazy if you walk into a hood and you claim the exact gang in on that block.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah, we should do that.
You just come by and you're like, I'm back.
And they're like,
guess
what?
who's back?
What? You go, I'm back. It's been a while since I was rolling this hard, but I'm back. I'm back in the 50s.
Yeah, I'm back. Tree Nuts is back. They're like, who the fuck's Tree Nuts? What does that mean? That gang name doesn't even make any sense.
What's up? Pringles guy with a gun is back. Pringles guy with a gun is back in the motherfucking set. Y'all been tripping without me, but I'm back.
Little Caesar's cheese stick. I'm back up in the hood.
You just walk into their circle, you're like, chill, dumbass, just looking at a guy.
It's just like, what are these? Just looking at his shoes.
But you make sure that you learn all the names of the sets and everything so you can speak on it. But just start false claiming.
Is White Fence the oldest gang in America?
I'd heard it described as that, yeah, but
that's so crazy considering how new LA is in comparison to all the other gangs.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely the oldest in LA. I think that's kind of confirmed. But yes. I don't know. I mean, gang history is hard to track. But then again, Bloods and Crips are fairly newish. I mean,
60s.
Yeah, so before, this is more kind of 40s. I mean, because it started.
This is fucking.
It started
turn of the century.
It has a very old gang story. I think it was all those dudes were on a basketball team that was run either by the church or the local recreation center, maybe both. And it was just called White Fence. And then I think a lot of those guys just started banging, which is that is how old gangs actually started. It's we were a basketball team.
Yeah.
And now we're banging. But
it's crazy.
It's always something nice, It's we used to go to the same high school. It was very fun.
Isn't it interesting? A 100-year-long gang is so fascinating.
Yeah, yeah.
That gang is going on. Hawaii has been a state for less long than White Fence has been a gang.
Yeah, I mean, Big Hazard 13 and White Fence, like, they might have existed pre-Israel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
They definitely did.
Yeah. There's more history there than there is in Israel.
Yeah, I want to hear more from the White Fence than I do from Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah, in many ways, you know.
In many ways, it's better run.
Ramona Gardens has more of it's actually kind of a hallowed ground.
Yes.
You know what I mean? A lot has happened there. It's really, I mean, yeah, I'm fascinated by it. And there's like, I don't know why, but there does seem something good about 100-Year Gang. But
it's so impressive. The mafia back when it was big didn't even last that long.
But it's also interesting because I think that gang, like, over the years is probably, I don't know to what extent they're involved with like MS-13, because I think like so many, like any Mexican gang in LA has to be either associated with them or like Norteña. I don't know, but like there's sort of like I don't really know if you can have much of a Mexican gang in LA without being like MS.
Yeah.
You know? So that might also be part of their continued success, is a bit of a merger, you know what I mean? Of like, all right, so you guys have been a gang. If you want to keep being a gang, you're going to work with us. That's going to get a lot more of you killed, make a lot more of you a lot of money, back and forth. Now we're in big time business, you know?
Somebody told me where my grandfather lived in outside of Nashville was the second biggest area for MS-13 in the entire nation.
In Nashville. It was
is
the first
Antioch,
in L.A.? Or?
Antioch, Tennessee. First is L.A., yeah. Antioch, Tennessee's kind of fucked. That's where Jelly Roll's from. Well, it kind of goes in phases.
Yeah.
It'll be fucked, and then it won't be fucked.
Why did they go to Antioch?
I honestly don't know. I remember, this is crazy that this happened. I was driving one time in Nashville, and I had to use the freeway that goes through, or it's the freeway that's connected, and it was shut down because I guess like a couple MS-13 members, I guess, got on this bridge and were just shooting random people, like in their cars.
Really?
Yeah.
Why did they? That's not like them.
Yeah, I don't know. It must have been an initiation or something. I don't really know what the deal was.
That doesn't make any sense. They're really MS-13 members?
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah. They shot like a woman and her daughter in the car. I don't think they died though.
I feel like the gang must have killed them after they did that.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal to do.
Well, just because they're like, what are you doing? We're trying to sell drugs.
Yeah.
This is terrible for us. I mean, for the most part, they get sloppy in Mexico and stuff, but those cartels really don't want to shoot white people.
Yeah. Did you...
Narcos is like almost all about just like shooting Americans and how bad it is for cartels.
This happened in L.A. and East Hollywood before I moved in. Did you read about the guy who got like disemboweled and they hung him over the freeway?
That sounds familiar.
This happened like a couple months before I moved here. This was like the Halloween before I moved.
It was on Halloween?
Yeah, it was on Halloween.
Oh.
They were doing Mexico shit in L.A.
Yeah, but on Halloween, everybody's like, it's a joke.
No, that's exactly why they thought that it wasn't real. It took them a while to just find out it's a real disemboweled. It was some place in East Hollywood. I don't think it was near us.
They hung it over a bridge.
Yes.
Like on the freeway, on the 101?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so like when you're passing like Western, one of those. There's a lot of bridges there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does sound familiar. So they did that to a rival gang member. Yeah, they do that in Mexico. I've seen like videos where they hang like 4 guys off of a freeway bridge.
Yeah.
That's a very old-timey kind of, that's almost like when like your village would lose a war and your warriors' heads would be put on stakes, you know what I mean? It's very like medieval.
Yeah.
The way they're dealing with it down
Emphasis
there.
on mid.
That's
very some mid shit.
I mean, it's definitely some mid shit. The cartels are also hilarious because it's like the first crime organization that other crime organizations were like not at all ready for.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, oh yeah, we'll like rip out your cock, put it in, like what you guys did in Vietnam, we'll just do in your cities. And they're like, we'll kill anybody. Like we kill children. Like, we do not care.
Yeah.
And like any like white gang or like any like white supremacist or mafia gang or any like black gang or any Asian gang, like they all look at the cartels as like we're simply not willing to do what those guys are willing to do. They're just not. Like, it's proven. You know what I mean?
It is funny because
there's no Crip in the world, as hard as you think you are, that is anywhere near even like entry-level cartel guy.
It's funny that it's like cartel guys, like the way they torture people, it's just like, it's like stream of consciousness torture.
Yeah.
It's just like, all right, then we gouge his eyes out, and then we like fucking put his eyes in his mouth, and then we fucking open his pee hole, and we put sugar in it or something.
Yeah.
Like you could add every torture, you could add or something after the torture description.
Yeah, yeah. And every one of them, it's like, you can tell they just fully only care about money.
Yeah.
So, like, you look at El Chapo and you're like, yeah, that's like one of the most dangerous men on earth.
Yeah.
The 5'2" guy with the little mustache and the little beer belly. Yeah, that guy will like rip out a kid's dick.
Yeah.
And then put it in his dad's mouth. And then shoot them both in the stomach so they can't die quick enough.
Yeah, so they can't enjoy it.
Yeah, like, so they can't enjoy it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like, obviously it's like one of the worst things in the world. I mean, the way like they've torn up countries and how the U.S. has like pretty much.
They drop an anvil on. They try to drop an anvil on the Roadrunner. It's like, you guys are just doing Looney Tunes right now.
Yeah, sometimes the cartel just be doing Looney Tunes. I mean, truly, they're the most innovative. Like they other gangs, like the mafia was so obsessed. I mean, white guys, we seem to be like the worst at running a gang. We're like
absolutely,
we're the first to get toppled because we were obsessed with wearing suits and being like, I am a rich criminal. We loved
white people are so bad at crime. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, John Gotti's just like the best example of just like, I'm the criminal, and it's like, yeah, that does not work.
Well, I don't know, like.
I mean, the mafia, I guess, was like the first mafia guy, or not the first, but like one that's known as like the godfather of the modern mafia. He lived in a tiny farmhouse for like 40 years, and even when he got caught, was like, I'm a farmer.
Yeah. And
he was like, but the whites are the worst at it.
Like, white trash criminals brag. They're just like, yeah, I killed a kid. Mm-hmm. It's like, first off, I don't even know if you really did.
Yeah.
Second off, if you did, why are you just telling me this?
Yeah. The mafia was also like never only about the bag. They still wanted to be like a community kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like, because some people used to like the mafia because they're like, they keep it safer than the cops, you know?
Yeah.
But then of course they're like, no drugs or whatever, you know? And then even with like the Crips, it's really the same idea. Like, starts off with like community protection and things flow from that. And now they do a little bit of drug, but it's like the cartels are just like the first guys to just be like, no, just kill everybody, make the most money you can. Like, the beginning of your business is a war.
Yeah.
Just anytime you start a new business, you're like, all right, we're going to go to war for, like, the next decade.
Yeah.
And probably make, like, billions of dollars. Like, it's... Man, those cartel... I mean, you ever get on cartel Instagram?
No.
Sometimes, like, you'll find cartel videos on Instagram. Sometimes, like, from accounts or whatever. But it's just, like... The life they live, it's, like, truly the last, like... outlaws of the world. And I don't want to romanticize them because they literally like kill children and stuff just to keep people quiet. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I saw this video where it's like two guys flying a plane and like he's got a kid in the back that's like not buckled in, and when they lift off, the kid like uses like the kind of anti-gravity effect to like do like twirls on the roof. And the plane's like probably full of drugs or guns and stuff, and you're just like, wow, that's like no laws. You know what I mean? Like they truly look at the world as just like planes and guns and like things you can just pick up and use, and there are complete markets for everything. Like when you just don't think about laws, you know, or like even what country you live in barely matters. You know what I mean? Because it's like you subscribe to so little and you have all this weird illegal kind of not traceable money.
Have you listened to any of the music? The like I don't remember what they're called. Narco corridos. I don't fucking know how to say it.
I haven't listened to much. I mean, I watched a documentary on the one guy that eventually like got killed on stage.
Yeah.
Or not on stage, but got the note and then got killed after. So I'm familiar with the narco. Yeah, that part of it is also interesting to me, and I think why they're like the most down ass is because there's like a whole culture about it.
Yeah.
Of like there's music about it. There's oftentimes like, you know, like Pablo and Escobar and stuff, they'll be regarded as saints, and Chapo is the same in parts of Mexico where like they really finance a lot of communities and like build sports stadiums and stuff like that, and so they become saints. And then also like they all worship Santa Muerte, and how it's like Santa Muerte is, you know how they all do that? She's the saint of like death in Catholicism, but it's not an original Catholic idea. It's a Mexican Catholic idea that was most likely invented because when Catholicism was introduced to Mexico, they would take their pre-colonial religion, like Aztec and Mayan, like and stuff, and they would mix in some of those symbols into Catholicism to get away with it.
Okay.
And so, like the Aztecs, they had like a god of death, who I'm forgetting the name of, but they pretty much took that god and made it into Santa Muerte, so they could still worship. And it's just like, it's a very normal, but like similar to other cultures where it's like you have to respect death as like the cycle of everything. But those drug lords really hinge on that because there's so much like death and stuff. So it's like there's like a very like religious part of it. And I think they like, even now it's like the cult of Santa Muerte where they kind of denounce God and I think kind of just like worship her. And like, so in their minds, they're kind of living this like very spiritual and like thousands-year-old kind of tied tradition. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just this narco thing. It's like they're mixing in these traditions that are like really ingrained in their heritage, you know, already that are very familiar to them. So it's like this larger struggle than just like, we are white guys from New Jersey. These guys are like praying to a god of death, waking up every day like, I am willing to die. Like with the devotion of like the dudes in Hamas.
Yeah.
But they're doing it to sell drugs and conquer territory. It's truly devoted to the bag more than anybody else.
I had a very dark thought. I remember back when I was at home, I would drink a fifth of Evan Williams, and I would watch cartel videos. And there was this one where a guy has his face... Well, it starts with a guy has his arms cut off and his face is cut off, and they're just jabbing him with a razor. They're trying to cut his throat, but it's not working, and the guy's screaming in agony. And I remember one time I did psychedelics, and I thought, that thing where you're like, well, we're all one, we're part of the same thing. And then I got freaked out because I was thinking, well, if we're all one, I'm that guy getting stabbed in the neck a million times with my face and arms torn off. You know, that's just a part of the oneness of the world is being tortured.
Yeah.
It's kind of an extension of empathy, I guess.
I mean, I guess it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like we're all one in the way that we all kind of live in the same world and thus have the capacity to have the same things happen to us.
I guess the idea behind being one in psychedelics is we all come from the same energy, the Big Bang, so it's kind of like how cursive's connected.
Yeah. I have a hard time, I guess I need to look into that idea. I mean, it's like, what's that really, who came up with that?
I don't really know.
That we're all the exact same thing. Because I understand,
I think it's a very old thing.
Well, I just don't totally know exactly what they mean by it and like what...
I think it's kind of a thing you have to experience. It's like a lot of things where it's like you can know something, you can think something, but unless you experience it, it's like...
Well, but I've taken psychedelics and had that feeling.
Yeah.
But it's in the sense of that there's like... I don't know. When I was high, I was describing it as like an infinite transcendence of thought that we're all able to tap into.
Yes.
And so like when somebody's really good at stand up on stage, they're like, how can he do that? And it's like, well, he's letting himself tap into this like universal kind of idea there. But it never feels like... I'm always just confused when they're like, we are all one. And I'm like...
Have you ever done a heroic dose?
Like the whole like weird... I mean, like 4.5 grams or stuff like that.
I think heroic dose is 6 grams.
Everybody says something differently. Last guy I talked to says 3.5 is heroic. That's
not heroic. Definitely not.
I mean, either way, it's fucking gay, man. It's just drugs.
It absolutely is.
It doesn't mean anything, but
it does kind of. I mean, I think when you first do it, it's very important, but after a little bit, you kind of fall out of the whole, this is the most important thing to all of us.
Yeah, I mean, it's just retarded when people are like thinking that's the only way they can think about those things.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
No, it's like the drugs are a nice way to think about it, but it's like, be a fucking person. Actually, take it seriously.
Yeah.
And sometimes when people say we are one, I'm like, that just sounds like a purely aesthetic statement.
Yeah.
I don't know where you go from there after what you just said. Not you, but I just mean like, we are all one. It's like, okay,
I definitely agree.
I understand that there is a communal human condition. And I guess if that's what you mean, I'd rather you just say that. Because to me, we are all one is like, well... I don't know. It lends to more questions than answers.
Definitely. there is kind of a barrier of language of not being able to communicate certain things, I guess.
I mean, I think it's just what annoys me about some, like, kind of holistic or hippie-ish people is they're like, we're all one, man. It's simple. And I'm like, I think you just, like, feel a certain way, and you, like, feel generally calm, and you're just sort of saying that. And, like, I don't really know. I don't know. But maybe they're
It's like
just...
we're all one, but you live on a commune and get your dick sucked by a different 19-year-old every day.
Well, that's the thing. Is like, yeah, we're all one, but like things are different for everybody.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels like, they'll just kind of be like, no, it's not. And you're like, but it is. But that's the beauty is like, yes, there's a human condition, but then there's like unique things in everybody's life. Sometimes I just feel like we are all one. I'm like, it just seems like it's kind of looking at one side of it. But I don't know. I hear stuff like that, and I'm like, is that like a science? Is that from anything, or is that just like Ram Dass?
Yeah.
Because Ram Dass is cool, but he's just like a guy.
Yeah.
Talking.
That's the thing with all those guys. They're dudes. There's this.
I think it's interesting to guide your life by those people.
Yeah.
Like only philosophy, only guys that just talk. Where you're like there's like academics that study specific stuff and sciences. Like there's, you know what I mean?
I think it is important to be kind of wide in what you read. Otherwise, then it's like I think we are kind of in a weird state with information that there's so much available that I feel like people feel they don't feel a need to think.
Yeah.
Like they don't feel a need to synthesize ideas.
Yeah, you just kind of find a niche and stuff. I guess sometimes it feels like only listening to guys like Ram Dass and Alan Watts, who I really like.
Yeah.
I think are smart. I like listening to it. But I feel like only listening to them is trying to understand art by only listening to art critics.
Yeah.
And the art here just being like life, history, current events. And it's like all that stuff will help you form your own thoughts on stuff. You know what I mean? Like you should learn about like specific conflicts happening in the world or like the formation of why some countries exist and like all of that stuff that's like very ground level and material.
Yeah.
It gives you a very interesting scope of everything. And it's like,
yeah, I'm sure the
it's
fucking
annoying.
Alan Watts and shit wouldn't want you to only listen to him.
Exactly. Because it's annoying when you talk to people and they think they're very thoughtful, but all they have is like final answers.
Yeah.
Where you're like trying to talk about stuff and they're like, yeah, it's just like we're all one and life's so, like you just got to like find your space in that ocean. And you're just like, yeah, but why are you always trying to get to the end? You know what I mean? It's like they're always trying to end the conversation.
Yeah.
Where they're like, well, it's like that. And you're like, that's not an answer and that's not interesting.
Well,
you didn't give a new idea. You didn't have like a theory for me. You know what I mean?
It is very scary, I think, to a lot of people to know that there is no actual answer.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, I don't know. That's the whole thing is you just keep accumulating kind of for nothing. But also for everything. You just keep accumulating because it's like, I told you about that thing I read where it's like some people who are very religious like want to be perfect like God. Yeah. But God made us like fallible. And so trying to reach perfection is wrong. And even if you take away a belief in God in that, it's still like, yeah, the great thing about humans is that we can't be perfect. And if we're perfect, we're dead. We're not getting any better or progressing. So the fact that we can never be perfect is great because life just means that you can just get better and better and better until the day you die or more interested or more knowledgeable or more anything. And so it's like everybody wants there to be very much finite things and like this is this and this is that, but they don't realize that without any of that, all you have is just complete it's heaven.
Yeah.
The never-ending goodness. Also badness, but the propensity to learn as much as you want until the day you die, and it's like, yeah, I don't understand if just people just wanting to be like, like the hippie idea of simple answers, but without ever wanting to get into the nitty gritty is crazy to me because you learn about how like we talk a lot about LA and California and city planning and how the city sort of grows, like a bacteria. And I think I get a great perspective on life from that. You know what I mean? The way things work, how people move, because you have this major city that makes a lot of money. And yet there seems to be so many contradictions in how it was built, so many back and forth plans, so many plans that just seem like they're just going to run parts of it into the ground on purpose, which they do,
This is a very interesting city to live in, and it definitely changes your perspective in a way that more functional cities maybe wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of like, it kind of shows you that it's like, nah, you can kind of just scrape by. Like, you don't need a water source.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying it's not going to end horribly. I think it will eventually. I don't know when, but I don't think the city's going to end peacefully. I think it's going to be pretty abrupt and bad for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But that being said, it is like a startup where it's like somehow we've gotten off the ground, though, and people have invested.
Yeah.
There's millions of people here. There's billions of dollars, and none of it really is a good idea on paper.
Absolutely not.
I mean, the only thing we have is the ports, and we only have that because of insane gerrymandering to have the tiniest little line down to Long Beach so we can have a port. Besides that, the cities, I don't know what the fuck we're up to. You know, I mean, entertainment, whatever. But yeah, it's like, my point is like any kind of hippy dippy, like we're all one and the way we fuck it, all of that is so informed by like a detailed history of a place like Los Angeles. To be like, this is the oneness and the moving and the contradiction and how we don't really make plans. We just sort of, we draw the blueprint. There is no blueprint because we're just building it as we go.
Yeah.
And that's what that whole, whatever. But
I was thinking fairly recently about like where all the industry would go if LA and New York got destroyed. I think the biggest city would probably end up Atlanta.
It'd be, Atlanta or Phoenix, probably.
I think Phoenix,
or
I don't think so.
Or Albuquerque. They shoot a lot in Albuquerque. I'm just thinking of places they already are in Atlanta and Albuquerque. Amazon has a huge studio they're building in Albuquerque. And
that makes sense. I didn't know about that.
The same with tons of other places. Mostly
Toronto, I think it's Atlanta and Toronto. They film most of the shit.
Yeah. You can shoot on reservations for cheap, so.
Huh.
They probably, I mean, somewhere they've already been. And that's a good example, but we talk about city planning. It's like, where would they go?
Yeah.
You'd think they would start a whole new city. No, they'd go where there's already been stuff, and then you'd change that city, and then that's why, like, it's kind of weird. Like, I think people think of history as like, okay, red period, blue period, green period, when really it's like red, and now it's purple.
Yeah.
And now it's blue, and there's a little red again, and then like, and it's like, the more you learn about how almost impossible it is to really understand the story of like humans' history is so interesting. You know what I mean? Like, don't you like when you try and look, like you think you have a simple answer, like how did humans migrate across the world? You know what I mean? Or how did they evolve? And you think you have a simple question that maybe you could watch an hour-long video and have an answer to. And then you do watch an hour-long video and maybe you kind of have a basis. But that basis is kind of telling you that there's like 50 different parts of that video that could be a whole other hour video that you don't understand. Yeah. And how interesting that is. And then you should have something in your brain that clicks on of like, oh, great, I have all this stuff to learn about. It's like there's never-ending entertainment in television because there are smart people doing good work to figure things out, and they love talking about it. And it's like any question you have, there's hours of information on it. That's so much better than a lot of things people are watching or interested in.
I was thinking about Castro the other day, as I don't know shit about history, and I just messaged our friend Nate, is Castro good?
I think that is... We should all be doing that.
Yeah.
Everybody is like, oh, I'm dumb. Oh, like, I don't know about stuff. And then they think that they have to be smart to even ask the questions. And it's like, just ask the questions.
It's just like, I just want to know.
And it's like, and that there's kind of no answer to is this person good or bad. But
no, exactly. I'm asking an unanswerable question.
But you also know that asking that kind of question is going to get a certain... You know what Nate's going to hear, and he's going to go, okay, I'll give you a little brief description.
Yeah.
I'm sure he gave you of like, well... American capitalists would say bad. Other people would say good. Yeah. Kind of, honestly, end of the day, kind of up to you.
Yeah. Well, the answers, it seems to be from asking people is, it's complicated.
He reminds me like a little bit of Saddam, where he kind of brought the whole country together and was like, we're doing our own fucking thing. But then also had some ideas that scared the Americans. So they were like, no, but then maybe got a little, I don't know. I mean, was Castro... People talk about him like he's fucking Stalin sometimes.
No, he definitely was not.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying like because of the American propaganda and like the Cold War and everything, I feel like even nowadays he's described as like, oh, he was an evil man running a tyrannical dictatorship. And it's like, was he... Were people even dying under his regime? I don't know. Some people hate him. Some Cubans fucking hate him.
Yeah.
That's why it's very complicated.
Miami Cubans.
Yeah, they are like, no, he's horrific. Capitalism's the greatest thing in the world. they act like it was like Stalinist Russia almost.
Yeah.
But
I wish more like great filmmakers just made more like informative documentaries. Because like I've been trying to watch 2 documentaries a week, and it's because I just want to learn more. And it's like the guys I know of, they don't do as many things. They're just like, here's this.
I think the best documentaries being made now are like all online.
Yeah?
They're all like independent YouTube guys that like have nothing to do other than like compile things. And I mean, obviously you have to be careful with what you're watching. But
like, there is, I guess, a hindrance of just the informative. Because, I mean, I watched The Fog of War, which is informative, but it's like the informative part is not really what it's like presenting. Because it's about Robert McNamara, and it's just kind of trying to give you a picture of his life. And it's like, it is giving you all this information, but it is still posing like just a moral question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's better to just watch like lectures and debates. And I found this guy last night who I was wary about because he's just like a guy that makes YouTube videos, but the way he does it is really interesting because he was like explaining like the effect the Israel lobby had on the Bush administration's decision to go into Iraq. And he's only doing it with like a chronological use of quotes from like, so he's like, Dick Cheney said that had nothing to do with it. Bush said it had nothing to do with it. This guy said it had nothing to do with it. John Mearsheimer, who's an academic, he came up in the video. It's like, who's an academic has said that like it's because of this. But why would he say that? He's debated Norman Finkelstein. And then he just goes from like quotes to quotes to quotes to quotes to quotes. And like, isn't like, you know, I was trying to be careful, like not necessarily framing it in a way of like, you know, lying. He's just sort of like he had this crazy quote from this guy in the Bush administration where he's just like, you know, every few years America needs to pick up some stinky little country and throw it against the wall just to show that we can. And then he was like, you know, everything, whatever. If we talk about any of that, it makes the podcast even less successful. But
yeah,
my point being, I was talking about this on my other podcast, is that I think a lot of people trying to be informed, they'll listen to the news or politicians or documentaries. And honestly, the best thing to do is listen to academics that are working just for like educational institutions and then them like debating each other. And like those guys that are, you know, not sometimes like very controversial in their field or sometimes getting in trouble, but it's just because they've been like, you know, there's a lot of guys that have been critiquing a lot of things that have been suppressed for a long time.
Yeah.
And they're not crazy guys. They are respected scholars. They work at normal university, you know what I mean? University of Chicago, Harvard and stuff like this. They've been writing books. They've been talking about all this. And they don't lie because they're not trying to win a campaign. You know, they have their theories that some people say that they would rebuke, but then you can see those debates and make your own decision.
Yeah.
But watching a politician or watching news is just really bad because it's not going to tell you anything about what's going to happen or what's going on or like what they really want to do.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I should totally say that, but you know, I mean, politicians we talked about this last week. It's like politicians, they have to lie almost all the time for like so many reasons. And even if they're not trying to hurt you, they're probably just not going to tell you why they're doing that. You know, like, yeah, whatever. I don't want to talk about more stuff because it's not good to say on YouTube, and also I'm not smart enough to say it. But
anyway, let's talk about The Act of Killing. Have you watched it?
No.
It's very good. I feel like we were talking before about the limits of human understanding, kind of. Like maybe like, I don't remember how, like 10 minutes ago. And I think makes that movie
We never talked about that.
Did we not?
No, we never talked about that. We never said that. You completely fabricated that and made it up, probably against me. But I'll let you continue. I just don't know if I can trust you that much going forward. But you can continue.
I hate how often you comment, how long you call me out for slandering your name.
Well,
I told everybody you went to Amsterdam to measure Anne Frank's attic.
I never even went to Anne Frank's house when I was in Amsterdam.
You went to Anne Frank's house and you measured the attic and there's no way anyone ever lived in here.
I have made it very clear.
You said about Anne Frank, I don't think she existed, but I believe there were many girls like her.
I did not say that there were many girls like Anne Frank or that she did not exist. I simply never went to her house when I was in Amsterdam. I was clear that I went there to get high, not go to Anne Frank's house.
Well, I heard that you took like one of those measuring tapes and you put it in the attic, and then you said I can't even stand in here. I can't even crouch in here.
She didn't even like living there. Why would I go?
Oh, you wanted to prove.
What if you were trapped in a attic for a long time and you hated it, and then you got murdered after, and then I was like, I want to go visit that attic because I care about Shane.
That's literally not.
What the hell?
You were trying to make a point that I thought was very misguided. That there is a Holocaust industry.
I'm not making a point that there's a Holocaust industry. I'm just saying
You say that the Diary of Anne Frank, the supposed Diary of Anne Frank, is not real. That's what you try to say. You say it's a fictional work.
I did not say that.
All right. Well, then let's just move on.
I did not allege that a white supremacist sat down and pretended to be a Jewish girl in an attic during the Holocaust and wrote a diary. I did not allege that.
No. You alleged it was the dad, that the supposed father.
Well,
that's what you said. You said supposed father.
I believe that her father was a member of the CIA.
Oh.
The whole family's CIA.
That's a very interesting point, that some Jewish people were in the CIA. Very interesting. But whatever, brown-eyed boy.
What's that about?
Broccolini boy.
Don't you have brown eyes?
I have green eyes.
Well, they're more hazel.
Yeah.
I mean,
hazel.
Green that's,
It's kind of reaching.
Kind of running with it.
Yeah, I'll say hazel.
I would.
You would?
Because people could accuse you of lying.
My mom used to call me green-eyed boy, so...
In a nice way?
Yeah. What, in a mean way?
Green-eyed boy.
Anyway, the act of killing.
What's your mom's name?
Rosemary.
Really?
Yeah. We all go by our middle names, though.
What's her middle name?
That's her middle name.
What is her first name?
Why do you want to know my mom's first name?
Just curious.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you.
Okay. Well,
you're not allowed to know. What's your mom's first name?
Yeah, I guess this is really a fucking business partnership.
I'll tell you off the podcast.
Well, tell me about the act of killing, something you've never done on stage.
Oh. Yeah. Well, so I remember watching it and thinking, the reason I think this is one of the best movies ever is it does tap into something that is beyond our understanding. Like you're kind of put into this space of empathizing with a horrific killer.
You got to tell them what it's about.
Oh, The Act of Killing. It's a movie. It's a documentary. It's about these two gangsters in Indonesia who tortured and killed a bunch of supposed communists, and they killed maybe a couple thousand people personally. And the documentary filmmaker asks them to make a movie about their experience, and it helps them come to terms with what they did.
Yeah.
And it is a crazy thing of like, because I guess I've been spending my entire life trying to reading and watching stuff to try to understand an evil brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that kind of makes sense with a lot of stuff you're into.
I mean,
that would make sense as
a lot of people don't
driving force.
I don't think a lot of people don't believe in evil, and I understand it, but I don't know if I think evil is kind of it's an outside force or an outside energy that kind of exists within everybody, but can kind of overtake. You know what I mean? It's kind of a hunger, it's a selfishness, a violence, brutality.
Yeah, I don't really think anybody's born with it. It just kind of like finds a space in places where there's like a lot of neglect or something like that. And it's like, I don't know, people be like, he has a propensity for evil. It's like, well, people will like respond to like the structures they're given, and then also like the structures that are built in their brain from their life. So it's like, yeah, evil kind of finds a home, and like when you just hear about like specific families where you're like, they had no money, there's a bunch of fucking bugs everywhere, and the dad had a kid with the fucking daughter, and it's like that kind of just depravity just exists in a place where like so little options have been afforded to those people, And then they're affording so little options to their children and just perpetuating a cycle. And it's like, yeah, like this idea of evil is like, it's just sort of it's gonna exist in a place like that.
Yeah.
Where almost nothing's being taken care of, and where a man could be so hurt and so broken, and then also like made to respect or hold nothing sacred to the point that like he's now doing these horrifically like just, things you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it shows up in that kind of space.
I think there is a kind of a void that's a part of everything. I think there's something, and there's also kind of a void that's in kind of the center of the universe, and that's kind of the thing that spreads, that creates evil. It's kind of an energy, an anti-energy kind of.
Yeah.
But you have to look at that, I guess, literally and metaphorically, I guess.
I mean, I guess there's
Jim
a way
Thompson talks about that.
There's like a way of looking at that, just of like, if you're not a person with really much of a belief system or a goal or anything you want, then you're probably a person who's not going to be a very upstanding person, usually doing the right things, because of there's just more space of this void that you're not filling in with beliefs, hopes, wants, desire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you're trying to kind of transcend the what's right in front of you, then your whole world can change and you can want more from yourself. But I think there's so many people who have so little hope that like the doing something really terrible, there's no more consequences anymore when they've been so thrown away by society.
Have you ever been Have you ever been around real violence?
I mean, I feel like you've asked me that before. No, I guess.
Have you been in a room where violence, like horrific violence, has occurred?
Not really.
Because the idea of haunting is interesting to me. I don't believe that there's ghosts or anything, but there is definitely something to a room that pulsates with violence. And you can tell just by being in it. Like a trap house or something.
Yeah.
You're kind of at the end of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder about that. Sometimes it's hard to tell if it's like the room itself or it's like you knowing about the room and knowing what area you're in and the history and the context of it all that's kind of building up before you even step foot inside.
I've probably talked about this on the podcast, but I remember I delivered food to a place one time, and I could just tell there was this current of evil inside of it, so I was just trying to get out of it as soon as possible. I didn't know what was going on, I just knew something very bad was going on.
Well, was anything bad going on?
I couldn't tell, I was just in the hallway. There was just this creepy, ugly... This was in Hollywood. It was one of those, like, unmarked doors in Hollywood. And the guy... It was very windy, so the guy's like, hey, come inside. I came inside, and I was like, I have to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
That's, to me, was the scariest place I've ever delivered, and I've delivered to projects and shit. Like, projects in Nashville.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of... LA's scary because it's like so spread out and there's so many people just doing very specific things. And, it's like, I heard a story of a guy that fucking moved here and then ended up chained up in a shed getting fucked by homeless guys, and he got given AIDS and everything horrible, and he was just getting fed like a cocktail of drugs every day. And he was just like a kid that just moved here, and was essentially just kidnapped by a gang to just be raped for money.
Yeah.
I really just until he died. But then he got sick, and they took him to the hospital, and he survived and got away. But yeah, it's like that kind of thing. Whoever did that to him is a person that no, like, probably parent or authority has ever, like, really helped him out in any way other than, like, being mad at him for fucking up, you know what I mean? So it's just like this cycle of violence where it's like literally nobody cares about anything I do, and I am so fucking angry.
Yeah.
And all I want to do is make money, and I do not have empathy for other people. It's like, well, then here you go.
Yeah.
This is a perfect void for evil. And that's like the similar thing with the cartels is like a lot of the guys joining now, they're growing up in communities that are completely torn up by these cartels. So the option is either like I'll join them and make some money or fucking probably die. And so at that point, it's like perfect open space for anything to happen. And it's not like those guys aren't people with feeling. I mean, you hear them interviewed and they'll be like, yeah, I feel horrible about killing some children,
Yeah.
some things I've done, and they'll admit to feeling horrible about it, but then they'll also just be like, but you also just allow yourself not to feel, you know, and it's like,
somebody told me
you can be primed to do those things. And we oftentimes just ignore that we have a complete system that creates just like people really able to do horrific things.
Isn't it interesting when you talk to veterans sometimes, they want to tell you about the most fucked up shit they've seen?
Yeah.
Because they just desperately want you to understand. They like, I feel like people that have done evil and don't feel good about it, they just desperately need somebody
it's also
to
just,
know what happened.
It's just a good story.
It is a good
It's
story.
the only stories they want to tell.
Yeah.
Because the other stories are like being really scared, trying to go to sleep, and then being really scared on the toilet, and then being really scared eating, and because the stories they're telling you are just the only times anything happened, and then every other time they were just literally crumbling from stress.
Yeah, there's times when something happens is when they did some evil ass shit.
It's almost
sick.
a relief that a fucking bomb explodes because you've been thinking about it for 9 weeks already.
Yeah.
You know, so at least, oh God, now something's happening. But yeah.
Damn, that's some real ass shit.
Yeah.
Knock,
Anyway.
knock.
What?
Knock, knock.
What?
Knock, knock.
Yeah, what?
Knock, knock.
You're knocking on my door. I'm saying what?
Aren't you going to ask who's there? Aren't you going to ask?
That's what I'm trying to say.
No,
What?
no.
Who is it?
No.
Who
Knock, knock.
is at the door?
Knock, knock.
Who is there?
Owl goes.
No. No.
Hey, I want to end this on a lighthearted note.
No.
Say it.
No.
Say it.
No.
Say it, you cocksucker motherfucker.
No,
I'll kill you.
All right. I got neighbors.
All right, say it, you
The
cocksucker
owl
motherfucker.
does not go who because he can't afford to anymore.
Because of PC culture?
Yeah, because of PC culture. Because of the owl goes who, everybody calls him a fucking Nazi. Okay, I don't know if you've watched recent comedy specials, but apparently if you walk in with an erection to a woman's locker room, nobody can say anything, and if they do, you're a Nazi. I don't know if you've been keeping up on some of the biggest specials in comedy, but that is apparently a true thing.
Apparently, according to Joe Rogan, they actually instituted a guillotine into women's bathrooms, so you can put your penis into the guillotine and chop it off, and then now you're allowed to use the bathroom.
Yeah, so just sit and think about that.
Yeah,
That's the last thing we'll give
So
you.
everybody
That's
that's
a
watching,
true thing. That's
yes.
a